Today our lesson is going to be on multiplying and dividing rational numbers. First I'm going to go through how to multiply rational numbers and do some examples with that. Then we'll go through dividing, and then you'll do the classwork for both multiplying and dividing, and then the homework for both of them. So I'll explain that more at the end. But these just go on one set of Cornell notes together. Alright, the steps for multiplying fractions. Now when we were adding and subtracting fractions, we had to have a common denominator. That was a requirement to be able to add and subtract. With multiplication and division, that does not matter anymore. Okay, so we do not have to find a common denominator when we are multiplying or dividing. Okay, so we've got 4 steps for how to multiply fractions. Our first step is to rewrite all mixed numbers as improper fractions. Okay, so if you see a mixed number, we've got to make it improper first. The second step is to multiply the numerator. So we're going to multiply straight across on the numerator, so in the top. Then we're going to multiply the denominator straight across, multiply both of our bottom numbers. Then we're going to write it in simplest form, so that means reduce. Okay, reduce if possible. Very important that you write down these steps. I made a note right here to use the rules of multiplying integers as needed. What that means is a positive times a positive equals a positive. A positive times a negative equals a negative. And a negative times a negative equals a positive. So if the sign's the same, then our answer is going to be positive. If the signs are different, then our answer is going to be negative. Let's look at some examples. So for A, we've got 1/4 times 2/3. Now we don't have any mixed numbers, so we can go ahead and start multiplying. So I'm going to multiply straight across. So 1 times 2 is 2. Multiplying straight across on our denominator. 4 times 3 is 12. Now I can simplify this. I can divide both by 2. So dividing by 2, I get that equals 1/6. So for part A, our answer would be 1/6. For part B, on this one, I want you to write all your negatives in the numerator. So -1/2 times -6/7. That just kind of helps alleviate some confusion about where negatives should go and if the number is negative or if it's not negative. So put it in the numerator and that'll help you out. Alright, first thing is we want to multiply the numerators. So -1 times -6 is +6. 2 times 7 gives us a +14 in our denominator. Alright, simplifying, I'm going to divide by 2. When I do that, I get 3/7. So my answer is 3/7 to part B. Now for part C, we've got to do a little bit more work. In part C, they give us mixed numbers, so we've got to make them improper fractions first. To do that, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13/6, times 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6/5. Alright, so multiplying 13 times 6. When you multiply that, you get 78. So our numerator is going to be 78. For the bottom, 6 times 5 is 30. I can simplify this. I can divide by 2. So when I divide by 2, I get 39/15. Alright, and now I need to, let's change this to a mixed number and see if we can simplify some more. So how many times does 15 go into 39? That would be 2. And that would leave 9 left over, so 2 and 9/15. And I see now that with that 9 and 15, I can divide by 3. So dividing by 3, I have 2 and 3/5 as my final answer. So we got to change those mixed numbers to improper fractions, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and then simplify as possible. Remember, you cannot leave it as an improper fraction. You've got to make it a mixed number. Alright, now we're on to dividing rational numbers. First thing, the inverse property of multiplication. The product of a number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. Okay, so we're going to have to find these multiplicative inverses. It's also called a reciprocal. Make sure you have that written down in your notes. All right, so basically a multiplicative inverse is the fraction flipped upside down. So the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. So you need to have it written as an improper fraction if it is a mixed number first. So looking at A, if we change that to a mixed number, we're going to get 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is negative 7/3. So finding the multiplicative inverse, I'm just going to actually invert that. Okay, I'm going to leave my negative in the numerator. The 3 now comes on top, and the 7 goes down in the denominator. So for a multiplicative inverse, you simply flip it. You find the reciprocal, which is upside down. All right, for this one for B, I'm going to put that negative with my 5. I'm going to leave it in the numerator. So finding the multiplicative inverse, I'm going to just switch them. Negative 8 over 5. All right, now C is a little different. C just gives us the number 7. You have to know that if you just see an integer, that is the same thing as 7 over 1. Okay, if it doesn't have a denominator, it's really over 1. So when I find the multiplicative inverse of that, I just switch it. So the multiplicative inverse would be 1/7. All right, so steps for dividing. We're going to copy the original, circle the number after the division sign, rewrite the first number. I'm sorry, I'm getting all messed up. Step 4, write a multiplication sign. I prefer that you use a dot, but you can use an X. 5, write the reciprocal of the circled number. 6, multiply across like we did. And 7, simplify. So this right here, keep, change, flip. Very, very, very important for dividing fractions. Okay, now you don't do that with multiplying, only with dividing. So let's look at some examples. All right, we're going to use keep, change, flip to help work these. So what that tells me for D, that I'm going to keep my 3/4. I'm going to change the division to multiplication. And I'm going to do the reciprocal of the second number. So that just means I'm going to flip it. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. So keep, change, flip. Now I'm ready to multiply just like we've been doing. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. I can simplify that. Dividing by 2, I get 3/2. And as a mixed number, that would be 1 and 1/2. So my answer to D is 1 and 1/2. All right, for E, looking at E, we've got negative 1/4. I'm going to copy that or keep it. Change the sign to multiplication. And then flip my second one. So 8 over 7. Now simply multiplying. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. Over 4 times 7 is 28. All right, simplifying, I can divide by 4. Dividing by 4, I get negative 2/7. Negative 2/7, and that cannot be simplified. All right, for F, we've got mixed numbers. We've got to make those improper fractions before we do anything. So 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11/4. Divided by 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 1 is 11/5. So negative 11/5. All right, keep, change, flip. We're going to keep 11/4, change our division to multiplication, and flip our second one. So 5, we're going to leave our negative up there with it. So negative 5 over 11. All right, multiplying. Negative 55, 11 times negative 5. Over 4 times 11 is 44. Now, if I divide those by 11, I get negative 5/4. And as a mixed number, I get negative 1 and 1/4 as my final answer. Negative 1 and 1/4. For G, last one. For G, we've got to change this to an improper fraction first. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Negative 3/2. Divided by, I can write that 12 as 12/1. All right, solving this. I'm going to keep my negative 3/2, change the sign to multiplication, and flip my second one, so 1/12. Multiplying, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, over 2 times 12 is 24. I can divide both of these by 3. So when I do that, I get negative 1/8. So my answer for part G is negative 1/8. All right, classwork. If you look on Canvas, I've got classwork for multiplication, classwork for division, homework for multiplication, homework for division. These are the problems that I want you to do. So for multiplication for classwork, I want you to do all 6 of them, 1 through 6. For division, 2 through 10 even. For multiplication on the homework, 12 through 22 even. And on the homework for division, 14 through 28 even.